Well, it's named Storm Dara, I think that's an Irish name, is sort of coming and going. It's deemed to be the type of storm that has very strong gusts, not necessarily continuous wind, like the sort of thing you might get in a hurricane. But I mean, if you look at that big tree up there, well, it's not gusting now. Just now, those branches were moving like a metre in both directions. You know, that's the sort of thing that can break a large branch like that, and then it comes crashing down and messes up somebody's fence or shed or something. I'm really glad that big tree in this garden is gone. See, now it's gone quiet. If you look at the bamboo, it's hardly moving. And yet just now that was bent right over. And the rain's eased off as well. You know, I mean, this is a strange garden because you can get the big trees really bent over, whereas they're hardly moving now. You know, a few minutes ago they were really moving. But then in this garden, things were hardly moving. It seems to go over the top. You know, I mean, like the buddleia's got lots of leaves and long thin branches. That should be sort of bending right over. I mean, the last storm we had, the other buddleia actually blew the tub over. Knocked one of my bonsai over at the same time. But it comes and goes. As I say, it's not doing much now. But there's been some, you know, we got airports closed, lots of sports activities have been cancelled. There's got a red warning up through Wales. That's very rare. I think I've only ever heard of one before. And people, you know, people have been told, millions of people have been told to stay indoors. Don't go out unless you have to. Stay away from the coast, stay away from forests. You know, just be sensible. It's blowing a bit now. You can hear it every now and again. A bit of a roar. But it's a good job the trees haven't got their leaves on. Not when it blows this strong. Oh, and the good thing is, if I can lean over, is virtually all the leaves are off that tree, as I was hoping. So that's good. They're all down here, most of them. All the leaves off of that big tree are in next door's garden, much to their annoyance. But, he's been sweeping up his leaves quite regularly. I said, I don't bother, I just wait till they're all down and then have one big clear up and do the lot all at once, and then, you know, bag them up, take them up the recycling centre, you know, where they get composted down. You can hear that wind now. Anyway, that's what's going on. I need to get on with my everything in bloom, spike or bud. And I'm going to do it a little bit differently this time because the fowls in the kitchen, I'm fed up with that looking wrong because it's against the light. They're silhouetted. I don't film that very well in the kitchen, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go along and pick up all the ones that have got spikes or blooms on and put them down on the counter where I water them, and then the light in the kitchen, you know, the actual electric light, should actually light them up well enough to be able to film them a bit better, because it's always a, you know, especially as I start out there normally, and it just sort of starts off not too good, and then we come in, and then we'll come out here and have a look round in here as well. So right, I'm off out in the kitchen. Okay, so these are the ones off of the top shelf. I'll do one shelf at a time. This is one of Hannah's. It's what I call a deformed fowl. That is not the normal shape. The lip is, well, quite honestly, more like a petal. Very delicate spotting, but this is how it is. It was bought deliberately as an odd one. I forget what this one's called. It's oh, I'm looking at the wrong label. I was going to say, I'm sure it had a name. Yes, it's Yin Oh, I'll put pop-ups. It's easier in the long run. But one thing I have just noticed is there's a giant mealybug in that joint there. So I will get my... I keep a little spray with rubbing alcohol in it, 70% rubbing alcohol, to spot treat. So there's some on the back of that bud as well. It spot treats the mealybugs out here when I see them. So I don't have to mix up sprays or anything. It's not the ideal thing to use, but it sort of does the job. It's a spot killer, basically. There's a couple on the end of that spike as well. This is the giant fowl that my son gave me when he moved out of the house and didn't have anywhere to keep it. Very large leaves on these. These are literally over a foot long. It's a very large plant. So that'll be in bloom soon. It's been quite a while since it's been in bloom, and I've forgotten what the blooms look like, but we'll find out in the not too distant future. Now this is one of the 8 mini phals that I got from Double H, and this is the last of the blooms on this spike. This was a spike that was cut to allow the branch to extend. Well, it's nearly finished now, but they're delightful little blooms, but you know, and many of them, I think there's a mealybug there as well, isn't there? Yep. See, they're around in the kitchen. I've just got to live with them. I suppose the problem you've got is if you use a systemic spray on Phalaenopsis, you will often find that it's not very effective. The reason it's not very effective is that the leaves do not absorb moisture very well. The little pores on the leaves where the gas exchange takes place and moisture evaporates, all that sort of stuff, they haven't got many. So it's difficult to get the systemic in through the leaves, which is why it's often not very effective. Anyway, this is one of mine. I've had this one a while. I think it's one of mine. Yes, it hasn't got a name, so it must be. And this has just started to spike down here. It's bloomed a few times before, but we've got a new spike coming here. Right, so I've got a bit of work to do on these before I put them back, and then we'll have a look at the bottom shelf. Right, the ones from the lower shelf, there's a nice spike pushing on here. That's one of mine. Got a nice spike on this one. That's one of Hannah's mini phals that I've been looking after for some time. That's coming back into bloom. And then we've got Hannah's species, Equestris, but it's the Peloric version. This bloom's fading and the next one hasn't opened very well. It's a very weak spike, this one. I suppose I ought to take it off really. And then this is one of the ones from Double H, and it's the one that has the terminal spike with the slight variegated edge to the leaves. But basically the terminal spike was cut and this little branch is extending just to see what it'll do, see if there's enough energy getting there to actually produce the blooms. It's a nice white one, that's why I'm letting that one go. It's a very attractive bloom. And then the last one, is this one of mine? No, it's one of Hannah's, another one that I've been looking after for a long time. And the spike's hiding. It's hiding right next to 2 new roots coming out. So for a while I just thought it was another root until I had a look under the leaf and could see it was a spike. So we got a few spikes to come. So we will have Phalaenopsis blooms, you know, on and off for a while yet. Right, back out in the grow room. But before we go back out in the grow room, I keep forgetting these two. I keep a couple of plants near me, near the laptop where I work. I sit here for quite a lot of time doing Orchid Society work, my own sort of research type stuff, and dealing with my YouTube channel. So I spend a fair bit of time here watching the news and the various things on the laptop. Now this is from the Double H visit. This was the one where, in my mind, I wasn't going to get anything because I'd already got 8 of the mini phals. But I thought, if there's a large white, then I'll have it. And I had the bonus of it not only being a large white, it's on a mini phal, but with very large blooms. And then the one next to it's the one I got from Burnham's, which is actually named. It's Phalaenopsis split. Most of the blooms have dropped now. All that's left are the few unopened buds on the ends of the branches and the spikes. This one's just opening up now. Very attractive blooms, and so that's that. And right on out into the grow room. Now I'm not going to film all the cymbidiums because they're all in bud, and we do that as a separate thing, if you see what I mean. I'll just film the one with the obvious spikes with buds, if you see what I mean. So as usual, we go round having a look at what's going on, which is quite easy at the moment because there's not a lot going on. I've got one Paphiopedilum that should be open reasonably soon, and a second bud down here. That's the only path with buds at the moment. I think Blackjack will probably get some buds going when we get to the longer days and it starts coming back into growth. On this section here, there's nothing going on at all. I'm going to have to move this rack. Oh, I dread moving this thing in case that wheel goes again. Although without the weight of the Deesers on this, it should be okay. I'll just push it over slightly. I just need to get in here. This black hair type has got buds. So we've got one there. We've got buds actually forming up there on the top. You can see the green coming out. There's buds on that cane right at the back, the shriveled one. So we're going to have some blooms on this one. And then the only other thing that's going on this shelf is my Laelia anceps. And the spike's pushing on nicely. The buds should start to show soon. I'm hoping we'll get at least 2. So that's what's going on over here, not a lot. Nothing going on down there. That's Miltoniopsis and my zygos. One of the zygos was forming a spike, but I cut it off. The plant's too weak at the moment. So just push this back where it goes. As I said, we won't do all the cymbidiums, but we will do this one. 3 lovely spikes on this one. And this is the bronzy coloured hybrid, no names. But the spikes are looking quite good. Buds are starting to swell now. And I'm quite pleased, although it's quite common with cymbidiums, on some cymbidiums. If you look at the size of the top buds, and then look at the size of the first buds, they're not that much different. So there won't be a huge gap between the first one opening and the last one opening, which means you do get them all open relatively close together. So, that's that. Holding this up at arm's length. We've got buds on the Nobiles, or we've got nubbins, shall we say. There is one bud, a physical bud that we can see, but we've recently looked at the Nobiles as part of my sort of genus look at, so we won't do those again. It's not worth it, we've only just done them. Tucked in the back here we've got the Twinkle. Spikes are pushing on, buds are starting to swell, but you know, they weren't that much different last month. They're just incredibly slow. That's how they are. And then coming around here, the Brassia hybrid, Brassia intergeneric in fact. The last 3 blooms, they're going to go soon. I can tell by the slight discoloration of the lip. But there have been a lot of blooms on this plant. It's done very, very well for itself. The odont type, it's an Odontocidium technically, called Tiger Tail. This has been in bloom a very long time. Quite impressed with the longevity of these blooms. They're a lovely colour, lovely patterning, very nice blooms. And then next to it we've got another odont type. This hasn't got an ID. Blooms, unfortunately, just quite a few have already dropped, and most of these are starting to fade. You can see the colour changing on the lip, starting to curl up. I think this is about the last one that's still looking reasonable. Oh no, that one's looking good. But again, they've lasted well. Came from Burnham's, I think, reasonably sure. It's one of these that's got this contrived spike, you know, bent over a sort of distorted sort of cane. But nonetheless, it looked good. I like the colour of the blooms and the patterning. You know, those are my favourite sort. So that's that. Then we've got the two Miltoniopsis. And this Miltoniopsis here, the blooms have finished really. There's a couple of buds to go, but technically the spikes are failing. I'm quite sure that that bloom will not open. That bud I've just taken off has failed. That bloom should have opened and it hasn't. So there's something going wrong with the spikes on that one. It's not happy. This one, however, is doing grand. Got plenty of life left in these blooms. This is her Alexandre, and it's been looking good a while, and it still is. Very attractive blooms and very fragrant. Very fragrant, that one. Right, so we come over here. Just get rid of that handful of buds. Right, we've got Hibiki. It's still in bloom. Has been for some time, and probably will be for longer yet. The blooms last a very long time on Hibiki, so one of the parents has incredibly long lasting blooms. So that's still with us. One day in the future, all of this growth that this plant's put on, which is an exceptional amount of growth for this type of plant, all of this growth one day will produce blooms. When it does, if it lives that long, it's going to be quite a spectacle. It'll be literally a showstopper. But I've got to get it to that stage. It tends to bloom on the older canes. Well, these canes aren't older canes yet. They're still growing. You can see they're still pushing out leaves. So there's an awful lot of growth still going on this plant. And while they're growing, they're not going to bloom. So they need to age, they need to get some age in them before they decide to bloom. Now we've got a couple of Restrepias with blooms on, but whether I can zoom in on them and get to see them properly or not, I don't know. This one's open properly, but it's in a difficult place to film. This one is just opening, and I think if I zoom it, if I get in close on that one, then we might be able to see the patterning. That is a typical Restrepia pattern. Stripes. If you can zoom in really close on a Restrepia with stripes, excuse me, you often find that the stripes are actually made up of rows of dots with tiny little gaps. So we've got blooms on that one, and then we've got blooms on this one. These are very attractive blooms. Let's see if I can get in close on this one as well. Lovely colours, lovely deep bright colours. It's just a pity the blooms are so small. I mean, this, as Restrepias go, this is a medium-sized bloom. There are larger blooms than that, but those are the ones that have got blooms on at the moment anyway. And then we've got Cymbidiums. We've got nothing in bloom on the Masdevallias. Those are the rescues, apart from this one Oncidium up here, which is one that came from Burnham's, and every new bulb on here has 2 spikes. So there's actually 6 spikes on this plant on the 3 new growths. And they're all tucked away inside the leaves, but they're all there. The spikes are all there. So we've got 6 spikes to come on that. Those are quite attractive blooms as well. That's that. And then up here we've got the cotyledons. Now some of these are difficult to film, but I shall poke the camera through. If you look at the plant right at the very back, and I move some leaves, you can see the spike with the bud. There's more than one spike on that plant, but you can definitely see the bud. If I come round here, that bud shows up a lot better. You can actually see the bud forming there. So we've got that one to come, and that's got several spikes on it. It's 2 or possibly 3, I think. I'm getting the camera tangled up in leaves now. Nothing on that one or this one. This one has this growing. I'm relatively certain it's going to be a new growth, but you know, who can tell? It depends. Some push new growths up from the centre of a new growth, you know, literally out between the leaves, like these here, yeah? And some push up a spike from the base of the bulb, so they do vary. My cristata, which I'm not sure we're going to be able to see, right at the very back, the largest bulb has a leaf going across the top of it. The spike is in between next to the window, and it has actually grown a bit since we last looked. So that might be pushing on now. Some Cotyledon cristata spikes, they form quite early on in the winter, and then they stay like that until the longer days start, and it sort of triggers them off in sort of February time. So we've got, this one's been in bloom a long time, and I think we were up to 4 blooms per spike. I thought these last 2 buds were going to blast, but it looks like they're actually going to carry on and open. There'll be a little while yet because they are quite large, so we may get some more there. Now around the back here on this one, the spikes are tangled up in the leaves. There's one on the end of my hand there now. This one's got 3 or 4 spikes, but they're going to take a while before we see the buds. And then the last Cotyledon that's actually still got open blooms, they're not going to be with us too much longer. You can see they're starting to get brown edges at the base of the petals and sepals, so it'll be gone soon. But they've been out for a while and they look very good. So yeah, a nice one to end on. The coloration in the lip on these is absolutely stunning, and if I can get it to close focus, it's got quite a structure to it. So there we go, that's the spikes and the blooms that we've currently got. There's a lot that's going to be quite a while before we actually see blooms. You know, okay, we've got the spikes, but it's going to be a while before we see the blooms. Like with a lot of the cymbidiums. I mean, Hannah's one over here, the one that's got the virus. The 2 spikes on here, they are pushing on quite nicely. This one will split soon and the spike will start to extend, you know, and then we'll start to see the buds forming. But a lot of the cymbidium spikes are still quite small, yeah. So they're not really worth filming until they get like this one, when there's something going on. Right, well, the storm's still doing its thing. As I said, it comes and goes. Comes and goes. It's had a couple of sessions where those large trees over the house roofs have been bent right over, and that's without any leaves on them. You can hear the roar. Most of the noise of the wind is actually coming from the front of the house, and we're right at the back. There's some conifers in the house next door, and it really is bending them over. If they go, bang goes the fence and next door's car. Hopefully they'll stay put. Anyway, it's going to blow over and then it'll be gone. Got more rain forecast for tomorrow. Interrupt our Sunday chat. I'm certainly not even thinking about doing anything outside until things dry up a bit. So anyway, I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, it would be nice if you did so. It all helps. And just as you go, don't forget the old thumbs up. As I said, all these little things cost you nothing and they help the channel grow. So see you next time. Bye for now.